So we just created containers, and there are two containers we have created. We have created a source container and a sink container. Sink is nothing but a target. Using these containers, we will create a data factory. So data factory is another, like we will again create either we can create a new resource group or we can use an existing resource group to create the data factory instance. So this is the core service. This option will take us to the user interface for the Data Factory Studio, where you can create and manage the pipelines, data sets, link services, triggers, and sources and sinks. So sources and sinks is nothing but sources and targets. So pipeline, if you talk about the pipeline, this is basically referred as the activity, what activity you're planning to do with the data factory. You're planning to do a copy activity, delete activity, migrate activity, what activity you're going to perform. Data set is having two components. One is the location of data and the schema of data. So your data is basically your container, which container you will use. And then what is the schema of the data, type of the data. For example, we uploaded a photo, we uploaded a CSV file. The link services is nothing but access credentials to connect to the source and the sink. Then we got triggers. How to start this pipeline or this activity, whether this is a manually or a scheduled activity or event-based activity, basically orchestrate or automate the pipeline or the activity that we are going to perform using the data factory instance. So let's proceed with data factory. Again, we are going to the home. Either you can find the data factory service in the home page, or you can do the global search. You can use this global search. Here you can type data factory, and this will show you data factory's icon. And you can use this, and you can check or search for data factory option here under the global search. It will take you directly to the data factory page. In this data factory page, click on create. Here, select the subscription type. By default, I have only one subscription, which is selected here. Select the resource group. Either you can use an existing resource group or you can create a new resource group. I will use an existing resource group, which is a demo lab that I created previously in the previous lab. Name or instance of the data factory. So this is POC data factory demo. The region where you are creating your resource. Ideally, it should be in the same region, and if your resources are going to be used for the same project, then they can be created under the same resource group as well. If they are for different location, different project, then they should be different resource group. Otherwise, we can use the same resource group for all our resources. Region is again the default East US. And version is data factory version. Only version available is V2 right now. Earlier it was V1. Now it has been V1 has been demoted. It's no longer available for use. V2 is the only option that is available there. Click on next. What is this Git option? This Git is a repository. So either you can configure this later or you can uncheck this box and create this or select this option here. So there are two options. One is your Azure DevOps, other is your Azure GitHub option. So Git configuration section allows you to select repository type, which is Azure DevOps and GitHub. This repository, when enabled, allows version control, collaboration, track changes, use branches to develop the work in isolation rather than live, use pipelines. So this we can configure later. As of now, we are just creating the data factory instance. So either we can choose Azure DevOps or we can use GitHub. The options will change accordingly based on the selection that we have made. Right now, we are going to configure the Git later. Proceed with the next. We are not going to change anything there. We are proceeding with the default option. This third option is networking. This allows you to choose how you want to connect, whether you want to use a public endpoint or a private endpoint. We are going to keep it over the public endpoint. We are not going to change the settings right now. So when it is public endpoint, the Azure Data Factory, or it's in a short form referred as ADF, this is accessed by public internet IP. This is secured via Azure role-based access, and it uses Azure IP firewall rules. It is easy to set up and manage. When you use private endpoint, this is accessible only via the private IP address. This is highly secured because it requires virtual net configuration. So it is little complex as compared to public IP, because here you will need to create a private endpoint. So we will proceed with default public endpoint. You can enable this. Enable managed virtual network on the default auto-resolve integration runtime. So we will come to integration runtime in a while. The next screen will be on integration runtime once we come to that. Proceeding next to advanced. So if you look at the top bar, so the next option is advanced. Let's go next. By default, as we mentioned earlier while creating the storage class, data is encrypted within Azure with Microsoft managed keys. We can choose to have custom managed keys, but when we select this custom managed keys, we need to provide the vault location where our keys are stored, and we need to provide the keys as well. So right now again we are proceeding with Microsoft managed keys. Tags, so tag name, and this is for data factory, and let's say next. So running the final validation. Every time when we come to the review page, it validates the configuration that we have selected in our previous pages. And once it has validated all this, it will enable the section and it will allow us to create the instance. So we were in the data factory instance or data factory service. Now we are going to create a data factory. So after validating the selected templates and values, it allowed us to deploy the instance or service. Currently, the deployment is in progress. So once the deployment is completed, you will see 3 instances there in the deployment details. One is your data factory instance. This is the data factory instance. If you look at the other 2, they are the integration runtime and the virtual network. Virtual network service is created because we selected the option there for the virtual network. Okay, let's go to the resource group. So now we are in the resource group. Here we have the storage account and the data factory. These 2 services are there. Let's go to the data factory resource. Once you go to the data factory resource, it will show you the data factory studio. We need to click launch studio in order to access the data factory. It will open a new tab where it will show you Azure Data Factory Studio. So this is the studio, this is the data factory instance that allow us to create and manage the pipelines. Pipelines is nothing but the activity, datasets, linked services, how to trigger those services, and what are the sources and sinks. These will be used when we are creating datasets. So we have already created 2 storage containers. One is the source, other is the sink. We will use these storage containers to create this data factory pipeline. Coming to this, we discussed about the concept of pipeline, dataset, link services, and the triggers. We already discussed about the sources and the target, which is the sink as well. So these are the four options: home, author, monitor, and manage. Learning center is where you can get more information about your components. So let's go to the author option. Here it will allow you to create pipelines, datasets, data flow, Power Query, and change data. So let's go to the pipeline first. Click on this three dots, new pipeline. So when you select new pipeline, these are the activities, or these are the pipelines that are possible with this data factory. So we are going to test a copy operation or copy activity or copy pipeline. This copy operation is available under move and transform. Let's go to move. This copy data is there. If you look at the mouse, this mouse pointer is changed. So what we need to do, we don't need to click, we need to drag. Once we drag it here, this pipeline is giving us further options: general, source, sync, mapping, settings, user properties. So let's name this POC pipe copy. You can name it anything based on your requirement. Usually the name should be something that is easily identifiable with your project. So what we are going to do, blob to blob copy operation. Again, we are not going to change any other setting at this moment. These are the other values that can be changed. Timeout, maximum amount of time an activity can run. Default is 12 hours. The minimum is 10 minutes. And the maximum amount of time allowed is 7 days. So this is the format: days, hours, minutes, and seconds. Retry, maximum number of retry attempts. Retry interval seconds, the number of seconds between each retry attempt, that is 30 seconds. Going to the source, right now there is no data set, so we are going to create a source data set. What is a data set we discussed earlier? Data set is the location of data and schema of data. So what kind of data we are going to create here? We are going to use the block storage. We created two storage containers. Both are block type. So the type of storage is block. We are going to use this. Click continue. And then what kind of file we are going to copy? So activities, copy a file from one container to another container. Right. So one data set to another data set. Select the file type CSV. Continue. Yes. You can leave it on default as well. There is no need to change. Linked services. Linked services is access credentials to connect to the resource. So right now we are setting source. So this is the linked services for the source. Click on new. Azure blob storage. Okay, it is disabled. So add it and enable this. Apply this. It is necessary. Without this, activity will not complete or your pipeline will not be successful. Integration runtime. This allows connectivity. There are three types. One is auto-resolve, other is self-hosted, and the third is SSIS. Auto-resolve is when source and the target, basically source, this source dataset, and the target, or which is the sync dataset, both are in the cloud. Then we use auto-resolve. So this is auto-resolve integration runtime. When either of the source or the target, they are on different platforms, such as one is on the on-premise and the other is on cloud. It could be sources on-premise and target is on cloud, or it could be sources on cloud and target is on-premise. When both the sources and target are on different platforms, then we will use self-hosted service. Okay, so now this is enabled. Account key, we are not going to change anything else. Azure subscription, we will use free subscription. I'm going to use the storage account container and anything else, test connectivity. So this will test whether we are able to connect to the dataset or not, whether we are able to connect to our storage or not. So connection is successful. Let's create this. Azure block storage one. Let's create. Successfully created. Browse for the file that you want to copy. So that is on the source and the file type was CSV. So let's use CSV and okay. And anything else that you want to change? Import schema from connection store. Okay. So this is gonna create the source dataset. This is the source dataset. This is the name. You can preview the data. If you are able to preview, that means your data will be copied successfully. If you are facing any error here, that means there is some challenge with the dataset and something is not right. You need to fix that first. So we are able to preview here. We will close it. Let's go to the sync option. We will repeat the same steps. So what we are going to do is we are going to create a dataset for the target for the sync location or sync dataset. So we will click new. We'll click the block storage. Continue. We will choose what type of file or what schema of the file we are going to use. And here we can select JSON or CSV. We'll continue with CSV. Say next. We can give a name here. The POC dataset sync. Link services, we are going to use Azure Blob 2. And for the file location, where it will be copied. So we need to use a container as well. So container is your sync blob. Say OK. And here we got this. Say OK again. Okay. So we have our sync dataset ready. So we created a pipeline. This is a pipeline which is having copy data activity. And in this pipeline, we have our source dataset, our target or sync dataset. And during the creation of the dataset, we have created the link service. We have tested the link services. The next option that is left is to trigger this. Before we trigger this, let's validate. So this validate all option is there on the top. That says validate. Your factory has been validated. No errors were found. So let's close this. Once we have validated, we can use this option publish all. So while we are doing publish all, before that we have validated, we have completed the validation using the button validate all. And we can also check this notification. This will show us what all has been done. Okay. Close the notification window. Go to publish all. So it is important that we first publish this before we can use this. So we are doing publish. And this is publishing. It's equivalent to deployment. Publishing completed, successfully published. Now add trigger. So this is the important components that we discussed earlier, like first one was the pipeline, which is activity. Data set that tells us the location of the data, like which container it is in. Schema of the data, what type of data this is, whether it is CSV, table, JSON. Linked services, these are like access credentials to connect to the source and the sink. Trigger, trigger is orchestration or automation of the pipeline or the activity. It allows to manually trigger the activity or schedule the activity. So when we say add trigger, it says trigger now or new or added, basically schedule. So trigger now is immediately, and then this allows us to schedule. New trigger, name of the trigger, what type is it, schedule, storage event, custom event. So these are the other options when you want to schedule it for. Date, time, how many times it should reoccur, those things. Start trigger on creation. So either you can schedule this for later or you can do it immediately. So I'm going to do it now. Trigger pipeline now using the last published configuration. We just published one configuration and trigger is to trigger that. Running, successfully running pipeline 1. View pipeline run. Let's go there. So go to monitor and there we have it. It's in progress. The pipeline 1, that was the name, start time, and currently it is progressing. It is running. It's a manual trigger. So waiting for it to complete. This author tab allow us to edit, to create and manage the data factory instances. The monitor tab, this allows us to view. So it has succeeded. So this is the refresh option. That has refreshed the whole browser. This has refreshed the pipeline run. So this succeeded and it took 1 minute and 23 seconds. Now we should be able to validate the data. That data has been copied or data is there in the container. Let's go back to the original window and there let's go to the home. We can access the storage class from here or we can access the storage accounts from here itself. So let's go to the storage accounts. Our container that is under data storage. Go to containers. There are two containers. One container was having both the files and other container was empty. So the container that was created as a source block that was having both the files. Let's access that and there are two files. Let's go back to the storage and the container that was created as a sink block, which is a target storage, that was empty. But now that is having the demo CSV file that has been moved here. So this is, we completed the data copy using the Azure Data Factory instance. We can also validate the file properties, whether they are same or not. So let's click the file. And let's see. Yeah. It's there, right? So this completes the data copy using the Azure Data Factory from one data set to another data set.